Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is Dr. Shiva Ayadure. It is 48 hours before Tuesday, a little bit less than that, actually, the election night, which will start at or election day, about November 3rd at 7 a.m. So we're at 9 p.m. today. So you look at 24 hours, we're actually less than about 36 hours before the beginning of election night. And obviously about 48 hours before election night ends. So we're waiting for people to join. And we're going to Texas watching. Hi, Tracy McInnes. We're going to have an interesting discussion about what does the meaning of vote really mean? And, what does it mean for people who are writing in Dr. Shiva for U.S. Senate? We're going to have a deeper discussion. So we step back and really understand the meaning of the word vote, V-O-T-E. And it's an interesting discussion because I think many of us have actually probably haven't really looked at what it means and where it comes from. So I think we'll wait until people join. New York watching, great to have you. Niagara Falls. Can I write you in from Illinois? No, what you can do is you can tell your friends in Massachusetts to write us in. Obviously, I'm running for a federal election. Voting in election, Don from Nebraska, great to have you. Louisiana. Who else? Oh, nice. Ontario, Canada. Right here in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Great day, Dr. Shiva. Learn and then teach systems law. Saskatchewan, Delaware. Thank you. Well, hope you win. Look, as we talk about this, we're really going to talk about why our victory, where we've already won in many, many ways. And we'll talk more about that. Arizona, Chile, Niagara. Wow, it must be cold up there. California, Alaska. Great to have you. I wonder how cold it's up there. New Jersey. Go Bills, go Trump. Excellent. Northborough, Massachusetts. Great to have you. That's Road Deaf. Road Deaf. It's great to have you. Northborough, Massachusetts is sort of western Massachusetts. It's sort of as you start heading west. Boston, Joey Lara is joining us. Great to have you, Joey. Los Angeles. Someone from Malaysia, Germany. Who else? Bridgewater, Massachusetts. We have Los Angeles, California, Indiana, or Germany there. Love from Phoenix. Great to have you. Spring Hill, Florida. Bilderberg Hotel. So we're having people join. We'll just keep waiting. Plymouth, Massachusetts. Great to have you. That's Kristine Carpenter. Great to have you, Kristine. Argentina. Beautiful place. Sydney, Australia. Best to everyone out there. Texas, Fall River. Hi, Nicole. Good to have you. By the way, to educate you from those of you outside of the United States, these are different parts of Massachusetts. Fall River is to the south, in the southern part of Massachusetts. Newton is in the Boston area. It's called Metro West. Bridgewater, Massachusetts is south, and but it's not as south as the Cape, where the Cape Cod is. We have also another person from Bridgewater. But, if you look at the map of Massachusetts is almost like a rectangle, and it's got on the bottom a hook, and on the top it has sort of an arm that goes up. But fundamentally, Massachusetts is very matches in many ways the layout demographically in terms of how people vote in Ashby, Massachusetts. Great to have you, Brandon. It matches a lot of how the United States is matches, which means the western part of Massachusetts matches to the sort of the western part of the United States. The central is really the Rust Belt, a lot of working people. And then the eastern part of Massachusetts is sort of like the eastern part of the country where you have a lot of colleges, universities, quote unquote, innovation, et cetera. We have Catherine Vitale from Dorchester. Great to have you. We have Karima from Quincy. Quincy's, it's literally a little bit south of Boston. Dorchester, Massachusetts. Dorchester's in the heart of Boston. All right. So, hey, Tim. Great to have you, Tim. Tim Canova gives us congratulations. A big note about Tim Canova, who's just joined us. Tim was one of the pioneers who is a professor of law, but he was one of the ones who challenged Debbie Wasserman Schultz in Florida, and he was the first to experience the harsh realities of voter fraud. I mean, many have experienced it, but Tim won against Debbie Wasserman. They flipped the votes with the weighted race system, and then Tim was able to begin the exposing of how voter fraud works. He filed a lawsuit. In the middle of the lawsuit, while the recount was taking place, as I understand it, you can look at one of the videos Tim and I had a discussion on. They literally burned the ballots, or basically got rid of the ballots. It's quite extraordinary. This is not, in some third world country. This was in Broward County, Florida. But Tim's, warrior. He's gone through this. So let's talk about what it means to vote. Where does the word vote come from? And by the way, those of you, before I start, we're going to talk about vote. We're going to talk about what a real vote is and why this election fraud issue is so profound, and how evil it actually is. And you'll hopefully understand it. But those of you who are listening, this is going to be a very, very good talk. So you're invited, if you're on Facebook, you can share it. You can also do what's called a watch party if you're on Facebook, to share it with all your friends everywhere. But let's really look at the word vote. Some of you may see the word vote, V-O-T-E, and you may also have seen another vote, a word called devote, like devote. Devote yourself which leads to the word devotion, right? Where you devote yourself to something. Typically, devotion is related to a spiritual concept of devoting yourself to the divine or devoting yourself to God. But the word vote is a pretty profound word, because if you actually start looking at it, it leads to the word vow, V-O-W, vow. Vote really, in Greek, it comes from, or in Latin, it's votum. There's also in Sanskrit, which is one of the oldest Indian languages, it's Vagath, V-A-G-H-A-T, which is really about one who offers sacrifice. So vote ultimately means vow. And it's really about a promise that you're making. Many people have talked about, when they look at the origin of promise to God, it's about a pledge, it's about a dedication. And so when you really look at the word vote, it has these attributes, which are words like promise, sacrifice, devotion, that you're wishing, but you're essentially making a big decision, because you're deciding to give of yourself to something bigger than you, either sacrifice, as in the Sanskrit origin Bhagath, which means one who offers sacrifice, or in Latin, votum, which is a solemn pledge to promise to God. So when you vote, if you really look at it, you're making a vow. You're making a vow because you're pledging yourself to a concept. You're pledging yourself not to just a candidate, but to everything that individual stands for. You're in many ways devoting yourself to the values of that individual. So that's what you're really doing. So, and then so forget the individual. What are the values you're standing for? Why are you even voting? Why are you even voting? And what does this vow, this pledge, this solemn thing you're doing? So I did an earlier live today where there are a lot of, unfortunately, people who are ignorant because they've been made ignorant by a very, very corrupt system at the educational level, from the academics, as we've talked about, from an entire system which has made them ignorant to believe that they should lower their standards, that they should vow, they should vote, they should promise, they should dedicate to what they call the quote unquote lesser of two evils. So think about that. There are a lot of people, when we started our candidacy, 2 years ago when I ran as an independent, or this time when we ran as a Republican after the election fraud took place, I still decided to move the campaign forward to a write-in campaign. And you had a lot of very ignorant people who essentially support the Republican GOP establishment, or the Rhino establishment, saying Shiva is going to split the vote, or people saying, I love everything Shiva has to say, but I have to choose one of these parties, the lesser of two evils. So if you put this into context of what I've just shared, what the word vote means, and if people are essentially voting for the lesser of two evils, and you decipher what they're really doing, they're saying, I'm promising, I'm devoting my life to the lesser of two evils. So that's what they're really saying. They're saying, I'm going to devote this promise, which is supposed to be a sacred promise, to the lesser of two evils. Well, as I shared earlier, the lesser of two evils is really the devil's path. because it's still evil. You're saying, I'm going to promise to the lesser of two evils. So in my view, that's really not the essence of what voting was meant for, or you're essentially, if you want to decipher it, you're vowing to evil. You're vowing to one of the lesser of two evils. Or you're vowing to those people's value system. And what are these people's value system? Remember, most of these people who run are lawyers. They do not, frankly, work like working people. Most of us who are watching today, we all have, if you're a mother, you're working, or a father, you're working. If you are a worker, a plumber, electrician, an engineer, an educator, whoever you are, right? You're working in a very assiduous way to make the world a better place. Lawyers, and no one, if you're a lawyer, that's fine, but I think there's a difference between true lawyers who are scholars, who are actually trying to find truth. But the majority of lawyers are essentially out there to manipulate life, right? They're out there to figure out what deals they can cut, what horse trading that they can do. And when you're vowing to vote for one of them, one of those kinds of people, you're really giving away a huge part of yourself. You're devoting. Remember, what are you devoting and paying your allegiance to? So in summary, the word vote is a very profound word. And the act of voting, and the fact that we have the right to vote, the fact that people have fought for those rights, the fact that how many ever hundreds of thousands or millions of people have fought in wars so we could have human suffrage, which means the ability for people to vote. Remember, throughout the world, I think this is the first point in human history, more people in the world have the right to vote than ever before. So, but I do believe that we're at this point now where even though we have the quote unquote right to vote, I don't believe the integrity of those voting systems exists, which means the integrity of how we can devote ourselves to, in our view, truth, freedom, and health. Do we really have a choice for that? And over the last month, starting in September 1, this campaign profoundly, nationally, internationally, there have been many, many fighters like Tim Canova, John Brakey, Bev Harris, Benny Smith, a lot of people been exposing the lack of integrity, but unfortunately, the political environment and the establishment media does not give them the full light of day. Once in a while, they'll give a little glimmer. So our view is that this movement that we've created is really a movement for truth, freedom, and health, but for true voting, true dedication, true devotion to something beyond just a candidate. It's about dedicating one's life to truth, to freedom, and to health. And in that model, you have to expose the fraudulent voting systems themselves. So you can't run away from that. You can't say, well, if you understand what I'm saying, if voting is truly about vowing, promising, pledging, dedicating, sacrificing. And by the way, I want to thank all of the volunteers and all of you who've supported our campaign. You have been truly people who've been very dedicated, devoted people, because you've supported this campaign. I'm not talking about just financially, but supporting us in many, many deeper spiritual ways with your prayers and your support. Obviously, our supporters in Massachusetts who've been on the ground day and I mean, we have people, not just me, but with thousands of people who literally work full time in terms of supporting this campaign. They're out there doing stand-ups, putting out bumper stickers, et cetera. Many, many incredible people, and people of all walks of life, all different backgrounds who've come out. Those people are truly devoted and dedicated, not to themselves or to me, but they're dedicated to these higher principles. And those principles recognize truth, freedom, and health. That without freedom, you can't have truth. Without truth, you can't have health. And without health, we don't have the strength to fight for freedom. They've also recognized that they're devoted to the concept of building a bottoms-up movement, which means valuing working people, valuing us, that we don't need the media. Anytime, we start talking about, oh, if we do this after Dr.SHIVA, we won this major set of events in court where the judge ordered the Secretary of State to stop contacting Twitter. The judge ordered the Secretary of State to contact the National Association of State Election Directors to stop interfering and calling Twitter to manipulating my communications or interfering in my communications, and so on. But that the victory that we achieved, none of the mainstream media will ever cover, left or right, Republican or Democrat. Why? Because in our exposure of this, we've shown that both the Republican and the Democrat establishment thrive on the fact that the voting systems are not in integrity. They actually want election fraud. They don't want ballot images to be saved. So if you step back, we won the primary election on September 1. We discovered that they manipulated the voting systems. We discovered that in Massachusetts that the ballot images, so when one of these, when you vote and it goes through the ballot scanners, that the resulting digital image is being deleted in Massachusetts, which is a violation of federal law. When we started tweeting that out, when I shared the evidence of the Massachusetts Secretary of State acknowledging that they delete ballot images, that's when I was shut down on Twitter. And what we've come to find out is that my shutdown was not just coordinated out of Massachusetts, it was coordinated by the National Association of Secretaries of Election Directors, NASED. Because I would say probably most of these states still today are not saving the ballot images, which is a violation of federal law. According to federal law, all records generated in connection with an election are supposed to be saved for 22 months. So when with my very large platform of over 1 million people started sharing this became a serious threat. So because these people are not devoted, they are not have a promise to God, they're not pledging their lives to something bigger. These people do not want us to vow to something big. That's why they've attacked the voting system. So it's actually quite profound. We cannot actually have real voting in this country. We're not allowed to truly vow and dedicate ourselves to higher principles as long as those voting systems are, as we've shared, fraudulent. The fact that we don't have voter ID in this country, we don't have the ability to get a receipt when we vote, we don't the fact that the software systems on these machines can be set to not save ballot images, which means delete them after they're generated, the fact that they can manipulate votes by multiplying votes. Basically, it's spitting on the whole concept of devotion, devote or vote. That's what they've done. That's why this is profound. That's why our campaign, moving on, what does this write-in mean? So if you understand what I'm saying is, what does write-in mean? Write-in means we take our pens, the pen is mightier than the sword, and we raise our swords up, and that's what we're saying symbolically, and we write in Dr.SHIVA for Senate. What we're really saying is that it's time that we rededicate ourselves, to recognizing the truth that the voting systems are absolutely have no integrity. They have no integrity. So you can't really vow, you can't really dedicate to higher principles in the current modern voting systems. So this write-in, what we're saying is, when you write in, you're saying, I acknowledge those voting systems are flawed, not only flawed, but criminally flawed, and that I'm going to take my pen, and when I'm writing Dr.SHIVA symbolically and materially, I'm saying that I'm breaking from that system. I'm putting my signature down for something that is truly honors voting. So if you truly want to vote, which is vow, dedicate, sacrifice yourself to higher principles, a promise to God, this concept of writing in Dr.SHIVA, and I'm not saying in some far from being, have any sense of hubris here, is basically that write-in campaign is you recognizing that you've awoken, you have political consciousness. Anyone who tries to tell you the lesser of two evils is nuts, is ignorant. And you're saying, you know what, I'm going to stand on my own 2 feet and I'm writing in Dr.SHIVA, or I'm going to tell other people to write in Dr.SHIVA for US Senate. And that act basically says that you have raised your level of consciousness, that you are truly a real voter. A real voter, you can't be voting for any of these, rhino Democrat mob, because they are part of a fraudulent voting system. That's why, we were out doing rolling rallies today. We never saw any of these other candidates out there in Massachusetts. They don't have lawn signs because they don't need to vote anymore. People don't need to vote for them. They manipulate the voting system. So just think about that. People don't need to vote for them because they can flip the switch in these voting systems and they can manipulate votes. They did it to us on September 1. They've done it to Tim Canova down in Florida when he ran against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. These are evil people. So in the modern systems, when you vote for them, it's not truly voting because it's really not a vow to a higher purpose. You're basically working with evil. That's what it really means, because true voting is a vow to the divine. It's a vow you're dedicating yourself, you're sacrificing. So if the voting systems are themselves flawed, you can't really vote, which is a vow, which is a promise, which is being devoted. You're doing some other activity. So that's what I want. That's the insight that I had. So, those people who are writing us in are getting this, because if you notice, what is the bottom of this card, what does it say? It says stop election fraud. And that election fraud, meaning let's stop, this evil system, which doesn't really allow people to truly be devotional, to vow to a certain truth that they have come to believe, because the system has no integrity to it. And so all of you listening, wherever you are in the United States, and by the way, I'm sure this, remember, technology is getting more and more consolidated. These voting systems are owned by a few companies, and those few companies not only operate in the United States, they operate globally. So the essence for everyone listening here is that our run, that because we didn't walk away, that we're still continuing our write-in campaign. This is really, these cards, by the way, we put up close to about 1.5 million of these. Our amazing volunteers got them out, handed them out all over Massachusetts. But this write-in campaign, wherever you are, really recognize it's really a campaign for truth, freedom, and help, because we're recognizing the existing voting systems have no integrity. So this goes beyond Democrat or Republican or Labor Party or Tory Party, wherever you are. It's truly a rededication to what it means to be devoted, okay? That's what this is really about. So, so Crystal's saying everyone should write in. Someone saying Diane Botts, Massachusetts, yes, is a deep state swamp. Shannon Lewis said, that's what it really is. I mean, Shannon just shared this. It's a very profound statement that Shannon's sharing, because it is time that people wake up and realize in a very deep way that we have a number of people who are veterans on our volunteers. People went to other countries to fight fascism, to fight wars of liberation. And those people fought because they believed in very fundamental principles that we could be free people. We could elect our representatives. But if the entire voting systems are flawed and are fraud in them, what do those people die for? So that's why, when you take one of these, when people write us in, they don't have to go, 10,000 miles across the world to fight some war of liberation. It's much easier for us. We've made it easy. Our campaign has made it very easy for people to participate. You simply tell your friends to write in the next 36 hours, Dr. Shiva for US Senate, and share with them this video, that this is not just about an election. This is about truly what it means to be a liberated citizen. That our voting systems today in the United States are probably worse than, at least worse than most third world countries, or could be one of the worst. The fact that software, as I mentioned, the software systems, these voting systems, if you got 1,000 votes and I got 1,000 votes and they want to make you win, they can multiply your votes by 3, let's say. So you get 3,000 votes and multiply by my votes by 0.5, so I only get 500 votes. As we've also shared, we found out in the 7 cities, which we got data for, that in every one of those cities, there were more votes than voters. By the way, this is not some, third world country. It's not some banana republic. This is the United States of America in Massachusetts, where you have supposedly great universities like MIT and Harvard. This is a level of nonsense that takes place. So it's really an awakening time for everyone Tomorrow we are holding a big rally that we're doing. Those of you who are listening, if you're in Massachusetts, you're welcome to join us. It starts at 12 noon at 701 Concord Avenue in Cambridge, where we're all meeting. We're going to do a rolling rally. People love seeing our flags. We get so many honks. Yesterday I was out with our car with a bunch of volunteers. Wherever we went, everyone said, we wrote you in, we're supporting you, or we did vote for you, and we know you got chipped. And then on election night, November 3rd, we're hosting a party at our building. It starts at around 8, 9 p.m. and will go until midnight. You can go to Eventbrite, go to Shiva for Senate. Let me just take you there if you guys are interested in coming to it. Let me go right here. If people go right to shivaforsenate.com, you'll see, if you go to the events section here, you'll see right here, Truth, Freedom, and Health Victory Party. That's tomorrow at 9. But you're welcome to join us. We may have Zoom, but you're welcome to join us. We have great food. But most importantly, you get to meet some awesome people and build community with people. So please join us for that if you're interested in coming. But anyway, in closing, here's a summary. Vote. The word vote comes from the word vow, in Latin from votum, which meant to promise or dedicate yourself. In Sanskrit, a very old Indian language, it meant to sacrifice. So it's a very, very deep and profound word. It has a lot of value to it. It's in many ways a sanctified word. So voting is a vow to something higher than you. And when people are talking about lesser of two evils, second point you want to take away, it's essentially spitting on the word vote. And the third point is that our election systems, because of the lack of integrity in them, because of the fact that it's embedded with fraud, means the entire voting system is really not about voting. It's about basically participating in evil. That's why this campaign for writing in Dr. Shiva is really about you waking up to this very profound and unfortunate truth that the voting systems have no integrity, and saying, you know what? The only way out of it is all of us dedicating ourselves. This is true sense of voting. I'm going to vow to truth, freedom, and health. I'm not going to, quote unquote, vote for power, profit, and control. That's not voting. And I'm going to dedicate myself to truth, freedom, and health. So to the millions of people who support us all over the world, you're really supporting your own call for truth, freedom, and health. And that's what this is about. So all of you who get people to write in us, you're really truly voting for something. You're dedicating, you're sacrificing. It's a promise to truth, freedom, and health. So I hope that helps put this in context. And I wish everyone a good week. It's going to be a wild week. As we know, the world is going to be watching the vote in Massachusetts, the vote in the United States, the presidential race. And it's really about, are we going to have truth, freedom, and health? Or are we going to have power, profit, and control? That's what this election is all about. Anyway, I wish everyone well. Be the light. Let's win this fight, and let's wake up and really start voting. Thank you.